Ladies and gentlemen, Nelson Figueroa on the program. And Nelson, introduce us to your colleague here.
Yeah, this is Julia Fusco Luberoff. She is our CEO and Director of Women's Empowerment for VoteInOrOut.com. I'll let Julia give her full bio. An incredible person. I joined up with her last year in June. We actually met at a Met game, and we were comparing things that we were working on, projects we were working on, and she showed me this, and I just had to join the team. So I'll let Julia speak.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here. Nelson, thank you. That's an awesome introduction. I'm Julia Fusco Luberoff. I'm one of the co-founders and Director of Women's Empowerment, Partnerships, Outreach, all that stuff at Vote In or Out. And we're a grassroots voter education platform, social media platform for truth and accountability in politics, which is something we find completely missing.
Truth and accountability in politics. It almost, it's so far-fetched. It almost sounds like an oxymoron.
Right? It sounds almost impossible, which is why we combine together all of our tech experts, education experts, political experts, and ask them how this should go out there. My co-founder, Lisa Malika, she is a web designer. She's been a graphic designer in user experience in social media for 20 years. So she has been on the front line of how people actually engage with each other online, and how that culture grew from being something that was super friendly when we had the AOL days to now a weapon used to influence elections. Right. And we saw this happening over and over and over, and it was getting us angry. And then Parkland happened. And when Parkland happened, we had a friend whose daughter was there who lost her best friend. And she had to jump over dead bodies, and she had to deal with all of the aftermath of that. But the thing that came out of that it crushed us. I mean, we knew her, Lisa knew her. This became personal. I'm a teacher. We do the shooter drills, the active shooter drills in our classrooms. I have to sit there and decide which of my 34 kids I'm going to jump in front of in case a shooter comes in the room. How do I decide that? Who do I like the best? Who has the best average? Who's the cutest? Like how do you make this decision when you have a violent intruder in a space that's supposed to be safe for education? What do? We felt powerless. We felt like we were at the bottom of the cliff, catching these kids, hoping we catch them as they fall. And we decided to take the position of going to the top of that cliff and building a fence so they don't fall anymore. That's where we're coming from. Watching this 18 years in New York City, I work in Coney Island, I've worked in Midwood, I've worked in Flatbush, I've worked in a number of different neighborhoods. Whatever they're doing isn't trickling down to our kids. So how do we empower our kids themselves? After Parkland, we saw these kids rise up, and we saw them change all of these laws in Florida because of their passion and their energy. So Lisa said, we just have to give them a mic and a stage. We have to give them a way to connect to advocacy, to connect to have this research, connect to actual action that changes what's happening in Congress. And so that's why we built this.
So Vote In or Out is a .com, but it's also an app, correct?
Yes, it's a .com right now. We're going to wrap it up in a shell and, for downloading as an app as well. Eventually, we're still in beta. We have fully self-funded this through our own savings, through our own, this has to happen, through going to people and saying, listen, look what happened to our country. We used to be able to have conversations and not hurt each other through those conversations. We would exchange ideas, what went on. New York City here has a program, part of the curriculum includes accountable talk, where kids are forced to listen to each other on their own opinions and then provide feedback with evidence. That's the entire model of Vote In or Out, is if you want to have an argument, you want to fight toxically with somebody, go to Facebook, go to Instagram, go somewhere where that's already, Twitter, that's already been established. We're the place where you're going to have a conversation, you're going to learn something, and then share that to the rest of your peers and make yourself a voter influencer, which is one of the most incredible outcomes of this, is how empowered we find people become. just to click that little one thing that says, I'm voting out Ted Cruz, I'm voting out Mitch McConnell, I'm voting out Donald Trump. And then on the other side of it, to make actual moves to do what you do want, because that's a list of who you don't. There's a list of who we do want. We have every town's list of their endorsed senators. We have every senator, every congressperson, every presidential candidate. We have facts listed underneath each of them. We have over 1,800 articles on what Donald Trump has done in the last 4 years. What's our biggest problem in terms of the news, right? It's fatigue. It's constantly being blown at us, and so much
and also
goes by.
knowing what's real and what's not, right? Fact checking.
Right.
And you know they've you know the last several years has successfully, and I mean it started happening years ago, where quote unquote, and I'm using air quote, news outlets became more about entertainment value, and then it became about actual facts and news, right? And so that was obviously to drive advertiser sales and drive ratings and these things that, you know, fund, you know, television outlets and cable news networks. But then the next layer became just the lack of distrust of information, right? So we currently have leadership that doesn't trust the CIA, that he doesn't, you know, one day, and then the next day he doesn't trust the CDC, and then he doesn't trust the FBI, and he doesn't trust it. And it's like, all right, so who can you trust? So as a registered independent, what I've also noticed is, I've known obviously people who are Republican supporters throughout the years of all walks of life, but in the last several years, it became this like team sport where, you know, it wasn't about the ideals of a party. It was about picking who you're lining up with, regardless of what craziness they're saying.
You know, it's funny that you're saying that. It reminds me of the Tour de France, the way the teams will rally around that one rider and push him forward. That's exactly how the parties treat it, right? There might be someone better, someone who can outlast that one guy, but because he's sponsored by someone big, that's the guy. And everybody else has to ride around him to bring him to the forefront so that he has a chance to win. That's exactly what politics has become. Quick synopsis of how the app works is, or the website works. You go to the website, you're going to build yourself a profile. You can make it public, you can make it private. So I've reached out as the director of outreach. I've reached out to several different athletes because the world of politics and being an athlete, now all of a sudden you try to use your voice, you're trying to use your platform. So what I have expressed to every single athlete I've talked to, you want to become as educated as possible. I even have likened it to preparing yourself for a mock draft in fantasy football. Don't go there knowing who your first round pick is because you know who you want for president. What about all the 50 other things you have to vote for? I was overwhelmed by it the first time that happened to me, and I said I would never let that happen again. I became an analyst after I played for baseball, Major League Baseball for 19 years or 9 years, professionally 19. I became an analyst, and the numbers. It's about the numbers and the facts. I need to know how I'm setting up, and we have our motto is voting every day. Right? You want to know, as of today, this is the way I'm still going. Unless something happens, unless something changes me, this is the way I would be going into the polls so that I'm prepared that day. You have a digital ballot on our website at the end of it all. But how it starts out is you build a profile and you go ahead and you answer a set of questions, and it will line you up with the representative who best fits your ideals. And it might be somebody you don't know, because when it first started, it was 32 candidates. Now it's one or the other. But when we're talking about senators, congressmen, all those local politicians that you don't know a lot about, what we found out is our tabs of interest, our issues. That's where we align most, right? Because if you want to be on one side of politics, red or blue, wherever you land, independent, it's about the issues. So we have gun control, we have education, we have finance, we have climate control, we have all these different things where you answer those list of questions and you pick between 3 and 20 different issues. And then after that, you start getting articles on that candidate of what they've done. And people then voted up or voted down, almost like a Reddit, so that the articles that have been fact checked and vetted and they're crowdsourced, people want information, they want the truth. And there are people who do the research that never get the credit for it. And when Parkland happened, there were 207 gun laws that were proposed. And the NRA pamphlet came out and said, oh, yeah, they were proposed, but they were for lessening gun laws. Meanwhile, it was the kids that were pushing forward to try and get those gun laws to have stricter guidelines. And that's where you take those numbers, that number, and you can paint it any way you want. So what we tried to do is take that out of it. You want to read about the numbers, you want to read about facts, post an article, and people will vote it up or down. Because just like, what was it? BitTorrents. Remember when we had BitTorrents? Right. You weren't downloading the one that had all the thumbs down on it or was red and might have a virus. But if there was one that was, 10,000 people downloaded it, okay, I'm checking that one out. That's the one.
It's
That's
like ratings
safe.
On Amazon, ratings on eBay, ratings on any of these things where you trust the community there, Yelp.
And what you want to do is there will be some people on there that you will follow, and you'll say, I like this guy. This guy has put up some good articles. I'm going to continue to trust them. And the people who are doing the research, people love badges, right? So you post 10 articles, you get a badge. You post 50 articles, you get another badge. That's what it will all become. But I do think that what we tried to do is, so you have Reddit, you have Facebook, the swipeability, moving it is like Instagram. Sharing information is very easy. Click a button, able to send an article that you have read and you want to say, hey, check this out. And our biggest feature is called Stance Switch. So after you have, developed almost your digital ballot, you can click on Stance Switch and it'll tell you how the other side is thinking, what articles they're reading on those same issues. So then you are more well-informed. So when you have those kind of discussions and those talks, that you can literally just point to it, or you can send that link, and it makes it easier for, like I said, educating voters, so that we've gone through so many things just this year, right? We've seen people rise up and we've seen people go out to the streets. 10,000 people marching is impressive. But if you had 10 million people who can almost in real time say, I would vote out whoever the candidate is, and there's a meter of that, and now you can go and say, we would vote you out today if we had the opportunity. If there was an election today, we would vote you out. That would make people being held accountable, the politicians, to say, I've got to see what I need to do, or I need to be better. And I think that's what we're trying to do at Vote In or Out.
VoteInOrOut.com. This is a great platform, and I appreciate you guys for doing it too.
Yeah, I just went and signed up. Super easy to sign up, and right away you start learning about candidates that you may have not been familiar with before. So listen, we talk about voting a lot. We talk about how important the elections are, but finding a way to make it easy for people to get the information is critical. Mm-hmm. So that's a cool thing you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's always.
Thank you.
And it's not about you being a Republican or a Democrat.
No, we're bipartisan.
For the people that are tuned in. Yes.
Mm-hmm. We're about information. We're a tool. We're a resource tool. And it's not about who can scream the loudest. We've seen that on the debate. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Good TV, Nelson. How dare you? Real Housewives, loving hip hop. Like, that's what people want. That's what the people want, man.
And that's what it's become. But you know what? The reality part of the reality show is, look at what's happening to us. We're sitting back, and after, like I said, all the protests are done.
People's lives and their livelihoods?
Yeah, because I have a daughter. I got a daughter who at 16 is already trying to go through her mind and talking with her friends about what's important. And how can you trust this politician? And have you seen what he's done? And they're sharing information. And so when I showed my daughter the platform, she just put a big smile on her face. She goes, oh, this is going to make it easy to win arguments.
Exactly.
So, that's what we all want.
Our Instagram following is mainly kids from 14 to 21, and they have exploded with this because they're looking for information and they're looking for a place to have their voice. And that's really what this is. You can take your ballot, say vote out so-and-so or vote in so-and-so, throw it on Twitter, and you've influenced all of your followers to say, look, this is who I believe in, or this is who I think is making terrible changes for all of us. Get rid of this person. And that's the campaign that's going to sway this election. We're hitting 1 million households with postcards on Vote In or Out in swing states to make sure people are informed. We're not trying to make people vote a certain way or another way. This is about getting the correct information. I'm a science person, you make your own conclusions. I trust you to critically think, right? But at least look at what we have. And we've had these conversations with actual Trumpers, like hardcore Trump supporters, who have opened their minds and let this little crack of light in, because this platform is so non-threatening. There's no you're this, you're that, you're a racist.
No comment section. Yeah.
It's conversation. It worked the other night, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
amazing.
I think one of the most important things, again, is to how can you help? You might not have the money to support a candidate. You might not have the resources to do that, but you can go all in and just start sharing the information on each and every one of those things. And it's as if you're donating money to their, to their candidacy. You're able to put that information into other people's hands, who they will put that information elsewhere, and people start reading it. And as long as, like you said, if it's credible information, if it's been fact checked, then you feel strongly about it. But we know certain media outlets go one way and certain media outlets go the other way. So I don't even want to open anything that has, those 3 letters in front of it whenever I get something like that. But I do think when you see these articles that are written, and not all media is fake media, not all media is bad media. That's the first thing that when you feel like you're being attacked, you feel like you got to lash out. I think the media has to do their job. And more than ever, we have the ability on our phones to fact check these things. So instead of riding the train, you're going into work, whatever, and you've got 10 minutes, instead of playing, Candy Crush or whatever it is, I'm getting that 10 minutes in and I'm trying to figure out, okay, so am I still in alignment with this, so-and-so? Am I still feeling like I know everything about the other candidate? So that this way, when I have a conversation with people and I say, hey, so why did you vote for him? And they can't come up with anything in the first 5 minutes except for some notions. And when I show them the facts, it changes their mind a little bit. And if I make you say for a second, that's interesting, I know I've got you, and I got you hooked that you want to know more and more and more. That's the way we work.
VoteInOrOut.com. We'll also be looking for the app. It was a pleasure meeting you guys. Thank you so much for your time today. And keep us updated too. It's going to be a crucial next. Laura, when does Baby Styles come? 5 weeks? Right on Election Day?
Yeah.
The Baby Styles.
Yeah,
this is for us, Laura.
Yes.
we ran the Women's March.
Seriously.
And this is for us to have a voice,
Seriously.
and for our baby girls to have a voice. It's time.
Very beautiful.
No,
Thanks,
I'm with
guys.
you.
Nice
Thank you,
meeting
guys.
you. Nelson, nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you. Take care.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your work,
Thank you, guys.
Keep going.
You're the best.
All right,
Thank you.
cheers.
WQHT and WQHT.